I'm sure there are some of you out there that think my pessimism is a gimmick, or that because the name of my channel is BlackPilled, that all my content has to have this kind of defeatist slant to it. But if that's what you think, it just means you're not familiar with my earlier work, when I did have a lot of optimism. A lot of that changed several months ago when the miner's canary, as I described it, died. I said publicly that if Trump held back the JFK documents in any way, that we were in trouble. And sure enough, even to this day, they still haven't been all released, and the documents that were released were highly redacted. The reason it's such a big deal is it means we can't even get the truth about something that happened 50, 60 years ago. So that's when I knew that Hillary would never have to face the music. If we can't get justice for a murdered president from 50 years ago, there's no way in hell we're going to get justice for Seth Rich. That's just the way it is. And quite frankly, we need more people coming to terms with this, because it's going to have to get a lot worse before it gets better. And people's ability to see the reality of this situation is going to determine what that looks like. It's going to determine how bad things have to get. In other words, the more addled by opiates the people are, the more extreme the rock bottom is going to have to be. It's the same way for addicts. For example, someone who rarely drinks might stop drinking altogether if they drank too much one night and they got a DUI. Whereas an alcoholic might get several DUIs, lose their job, their family, everything, before they hit rock bottom and make a change. And society's no different. The more in denial the people are, the worse things are going to have to get before we can hit that rock bottom and wake up. And that's only half the problem. The other half of the problem is we no longer have institutions that can be trusted. In fact, we have several powerful institutions that are hostile and serve criminals, quite frankly. And in fact, the institutions whose duty it is to protect and uphold the law are the very institutions that are the biggest danger to the law right now. And we saw this happen with the media. The media, whose job it was supposed to, we thought, to inform us, to tell us the truth, was the biggest danger to the truth. And when this became obvious to most Americans, we just happened to have the dumb luck of living in a time period where the average citizen could become a journalist and fill in that void, combat the lies and the propaganda of the billionaires. People have stepped up when they discovered that journalists were not doing their jobs. But what can people do when law enforcement is not doing their job? When the intelligence community is not doing its job? It wasn't that long ago that vigilante justice was a common occurrence in this country. You might even say this country was born out of vigilante justice. But those times are long gone. You can't even discuss these things without being labeled a domestic terrorist, because the people that are supposed to be protecting the Constitution from those who would do it harm are instead protecting the people that revile the Constitution from people like you. And this is why it has to get worse. So much worse. Because in the surveillance state that we live in, it would be very difficult for any kind of vigilante movement to communicate effectively to get anything done. In the olden days, they could meet secretly behind Farmer Jones's barn and drag out a politician and tar and feather him and whatever. You can't do that anymore. The risk of detection is very high. So any kind of movement like this would lose steam before it even got going, unless things were so bad that even the average person would be willing to risk whatever opiates they're given by their globalist employers or by the state. The table scraps would have to become so unappetizing that they could no longer serve as a deterrent. And I suspect until that time, things are going to have to get so bad that society wakes up one morning in a puddle of its own bodily fluids and has that moment of clarity That moment of surprise that they even woke up at all. That moment of panic. They might not get this chance again. That if something doesn't change right now, we won't get another chance. Now, that the frustration, of course, is there are those of us who already hear this voice. But until that voice is heard by others, unfortunately, we're damned to watch things come apart like a car accident shot with a high-speed camera. And all we can really do is just buckle up.